Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, 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 everybody. My name is Sierra Peters. I'm the Director of Communications, Culture, and Enfranchisement here at the Boston Ujima Project, and I'd just like to welcome you. I'm super excited to welcome you. Thank you for joining us at our first Ujima Fund Town Hall of 2024. Woo! I think we can all clap it up. This is our first one. Yeah, thank you, thank you. And so we are recording this session. So I'm just going to invite you, if you do not want to be recorded, you can turn your camera off, change your name, do whatever you have to do to feel comfortable in the space. And you can also message one of us or me, I guess specifically directly, Boston Ujima Project. That's my name today. You can message me directly and I'll do my best to make sure that you don't make it into the final video. Um, so I'm just going to start over again. Welcome. My name is Sierra Peters. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to have a lot of discussion today. And so we really invite you to ask questions throughout. We want to have a really fabulous, robust discussion. We don't want this to feel sterile or like we're talking to you. This is truly is meant to feel like a town hall. So jump in, raise your hand, write something in the chat, drop some emojis. We want your feedback and engagement. Just don't interrupt. I think that's the only thing that we ask. So yeah, thank you all for joining us here tonight again. We're actually going to start out. We're going to start out with some introductions. So I want to take a moment to announce Julia Parker, our fund advising director, our advising director for the Ujima Fund. Y'all might remember, as you might remember, we highlighted Julia Parker in last year's 2023 investor update. This was the issue that was dealing with the investment committee. The Ujima Fund's investment committee takes on the crucial responsibility of conducting evaluations of each business that desires to be invested in by people like you. I'm just going to read your bio here, Julia, and then I'll invite you to, say a little bit if you want to. You don't have to. So Julia Parker expresses her passion for community investing through financing and supporting Black and Brown owned business enterprises through debt capital and equity financing. She is a community-based lender and is currently Chief Lending and Impact Officer at the Appalachian Community Capital. Let's clap it up for Julia. Thank you so much. Julia is joining us. Julia, I'm going to invite you to come off mute if you desire and say a word or two.
I just want to say thank you. This has been such a great experience for me and continues to be. I love Boston Ujima Project and getting to work with this fabulous team that Nia has assembled. So I love working with you all, and will continue to do so for as long as possible.
Wow. That was so sweet. Thank you, Julia. Way to kick it off on a high note. So now we're actually going to kick off our official beginning of the town hall with some announcements. Our first announcement is actually about our upcoming vote in Kadogo Productions. Genoa, do you want to tell us about it?
Of course, of course. Thank you, Sarah. So those who don't know, there's been a lot of emails going out, but starting tomorrow, our ninth investment vote in Kadogo Productions will be open. Kadogo Productions is an early stage edutainment startup with a mission to curate and commission diverse, wholesome, and accessible content for children the ages between 2 and 5. So the Ujima Fund management team is proposing an equity investment of $300,000 for a duration of 4 years. Nia, so I know the vote was delayed by a week. Can you please explain why that happened?
Sure. Thank you, Genoa. So we were supposed to send this out last Tuesday. As Genoa said, we are very excited to launch the vote tomorrow. However, last Tuesday, we did send a notice to our voting membership as a result of a member's insightful question during our final phase of due diligence. Just as for those who don't know, if you're not voting members, when we're getting ready to launch a vote, we will send an email out. We'll announce the latest investment, And in that email, we will provide either a credit memo or an equity memo for our members to review. And we let our voting members know this is actually the last stage of our due diligence. And so it's a very important part of our due diligence. And the last stage of our due diligence is then when members essentially act as the investment committee has been acting throughout, as Julia, our advising director, has been acting throughout, and as our staff fund management team acts throughout. So you may perhaps recall, for example, some earlier communications where we will say something along the lines of, we regard our members as, our voting members, I should say, as a 400-person investment committee, or we regard it as a body of 400 fund managers. And I see Julia smiling because if you've ever directed a fund or tried to manage a fund, you know how much work it is for one person. And so we really appreciate that we've created something where we can actually benefit from the work of over 400 people. So as a part of this member due diligence process, one of our members asked a really good question of Kadogo about their marketing cost. And Kadogo essentially said, we agree. So in response to a question about marketing costs, the Kadogo Productions team saw fit to review their projections in this area. And as a result, we've revised our equity memo. So that was going to take some time, and we weren't going to be able to do that with enough time to release the memo last week. And so this is why the vote's been delayed a week. We do have the updated memo with some updated marketing costs, and it is going out tomorrow. And we just want to note that this is exactly what we want to happen. So sometimes we can be so attached to kind of deadlines and things going perfectly as planned that it can feel it can make us a little uneasy if things don't go exactly as planned. But for us, this was actually a great opportunity for us. So this is a truly participatory process. And it was an organic opportunity for us to demonstrate that without the voices of our voting members, without the voices of community members, we would not be able to get all of the information that's out there. Julia, you helped us work on this investment opportunity. Can you tell us more about what this means for you and why it matters?
Yeah, I just want to share that this is truly an innovative process and does not happen in a lot of loan funds, community loan funds in particular. So I just want you to recognize how special this process is. And I really appreciate the thoughtful process. Kiana, as an entrepreneur, was impressed, and I thought really thoughtful about the questions that she received and took them to heart. I was able to work with her on some of the discussion, and I really appreciate her as an entrepreneur and a potential investee.
Thank you so much, Julia. And thank you. Kiana told me when she got the question, she picked up the phone, she called Julia. So thank you, Julia. I'll turn it back over to you, Sierra.
Yeah, thank you all. And I do just want to remind everyone, I just put this in the chat. You can feel free to raise your hands to unmute or drop your questions in the chat. Remember, this is a town hall, so we don't just want to be talking at you. Especially if you have, something to say, if you have a particular insight from something that someone else says, or if you're just confused. We want to make sure that y'all are getting the most out of this. So thank you, Julia, Nia, and Genoa. I'm going to move on to talking about our voting and investment program. So as some of you may have heard, we released our 2024 voting and investment infrastructure program letter this year. I think last month, actually. It covers everything from last year's highlights to what lies ahead in 2024.
So first up, let's talk investments. With the support of our ecosystem, we proudly invested over $1.1 million across 5 businesses in 2023, marking our most substantial year to date. This currently pushes our total investments since the launching of the fund and since our first in 2018 and since our first investment in 2019 to $1.6 million.
Yes. exciting stuff. Furthermore, we've actually expanded the Ujima Good Business Alliance the Ujima Good Business Alliance by welcoming over 10 new businesses into our fold. So the 10 new businesses are Bay State Banner, Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative, Live Like a Local Tourist Boston, Yamaku Kidogo Productions, The Pearl, Cupcake Therapy, Eastie Farm, Shanti Restaurant, Sydney Janey Design. You will see more updates and news from these alliance members in our upcoming spring investor report. We'll have more information on that later. So, now that we've talked about some of those other things, we're going to touch on voting. As previously mentioned, our voting members cast their ballots on 5 crucial investments throughout 2023. This actually touches my heart as, the quote unquote leader of enfranchisement. I'm happy to report that we had an average participation rate of 58.27%, which is over a 6% increase over 2022. Super important stuff. Notably, our members reached record participation during the Cupcake Therapy and the Pearl ballot. We reached a high of 59.32% last year, y'all. Great stuff.
Thank you, Sierra. So on that note, we also announced in our 2024 voting and investment program infrastructure letter, we also announced that we're making a significant adjustment to our voting process. So we are upping our quorum from 50% plus 1 to 60%, aligning with the rising participation rates we've witnessed. This shift also ensures that our decisions truly reflect the investment priorities of all our voting members. So as Sierra just celebrated earlier, we're actually already almost at 60%. We thought it important to formalize a higher threshold and to continue to work our way higher and higher so that we can say that our votes are more and more representative of what our communities want.
Great. Thank you, Nia. I remember we had a super robust conversation about this. So I really appreciate you throwing that last bit in, because it's super important that we are able to say that our votes are truly representative of what communities, particularly communities of color in Boston, desire for themselves. That wraps up the recap of our highlights from investments, and I'm actually going to pass it to Natasha to talk about the procurement initiative.
Thank you, Sierra. As people know, my name is Natasha, but I don't think I've met everybody. I'm one of the comms associate here at Boston Ujima Project. And first I'll be talking about our UGBA wire. So this is a new monthly newsletter that we started, and our goal was to keep our members informed of what's going on with the businesses within our UGBA. And it's to raise awareness, but also drive customers and dollars directly to these businesses. And in the newsletter, we share any news, updates, or anything relevant that's happening with any of the businesses within our UGBA. Some highlights that we added last month was that Kiana Saxon, the founder of Kidogo Productions, was named 2024 Black Leader Shaping the Greater Boston and New England Startup Scene. Dorchester Food Co-op started doing memberships, and Eastie Farm opened their community-supported agriculture subscriptions. So just making sure that our members are always up to date with stuff that's going on, and a newsletter that's solely just meant for that. Another thing that we've also done is in 2023, we collaborated with Live Like a Local Tourist Boston for the Martha's Vineyard Day Tour. And as part of the ongoing procurement initiative, we partnered with them along with Black Economic Council of Massachusetts and Indie Rose of Black-owned Martha's Vineyard to deliver a special experience to members and the public to go to Martha's Vineyard and experience Black-owned businesses and learn about the history of Martha's Vineyard. Keep an eye open for 2024 for more information for us to do that tour again. And if there's any questions, if not, I will pass it off to Yusuf to continue to talk about our procurement initiative.
Thank you, Natasha. Hey, everybody. So another way that we support our businesses in the UGBA is like by buying directly from them. So like last year we had holiday boxes that came from Comfort Kitchen, and so other ways that we support our restaurant businesses are like buying directly from them when it comes to like meals for the workshops that we have and the events, like our Ujima Wednesday workshops, which are hybrid. And so like we've also got it from Shanti, Fresh Regeneration, and Cupcake Therapy, and many more that we've got food from in our ecosystem. So by supporting businesses within the UGBA, we not only give them business and active promotion, it raises visibility to these restaurants for our members and attendees, to everybody, like the 400 members that we have, just to see that, like, oh, okay, we have that in our ecosystem. So yeah, if there's no questions, I'll pass it to Sierra.
Another thing that's happening this year, every year we put out at least 3 Ujima Fund investor reports. We like to make sure that y'all are staying notified. I hear that people like them, which makes me really excited. So for our 2024 investor reports, the theme for the year is technical assistance partners. Our technical assistance partners support the growth and sustainability of the Ujima Fund. In the spring issue, we're actually starting out with we're actually starting out with our team of lawyers at Morgan Lewis. In the next issue, we're going to talk to lawyers at Morgan Lewis who work pro bono on the fund. We're also going to be speaking to some of our portfolio companies, highlighting new and returning portfolio companies and UGBA members. We will have our updated financial dashboard and Ujima Fund pipeline status page. Great. Thank you, Nia. And yeah, if you are interested, you can go to the link that Nia just dropped in the chat and look at our fall 2023 investor report as well as other older investor reports. I mean, I think one thing that you said, Nia, that was particularly interesting was actually about the marketing costs and the fact that we are, we delayed the vote by a week. You talked about it a little bit, but I know that there was, you had some really insightful things to say about why member due diligence was not actually slowing down the process, but, that is the process. So I'd just love to hear you talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the I appreciate this question. So for me, this is actually kind of one of the coolest parts of our work for me, are these kind of moments that we can't plan, but that do allow us to lift up the potential and the promise participatory processes of democratic practices. Because I think what we could have done is we could have said, good point, good question, member, and this is kind of inconvenient because we're trying to get this thing out tomorrow. So we could have kind of maybe just listed it. So we definitely at the very least would have done that. And we could have said, let's provide a response. That's a response. But again, that doesn't put us in this situation where we're delaying things. I think many of us, many community members, I think we're familiar with processes like that. I think we're familiar with community engagement processes that feel like they're just a formality, that feel like it's a check the box activity, and it's something that the org that's conducting it feels like they have to do, but not necessarily to prepare to deal with the actual input, to deal with the actual responses that we provide. So for us, it's another opportunity to point out there's real decision-making power here. There's real power to shape the conversation. There's real power to shape the outcomes. When I was thinking about kind of what's another kind of unscripted or unplanned moment we had, I think about very, very, very early in the life of the fund where we had raised our first $1 million. And we had members who were asking, well, where are you going to put the money? And because we had about maybe between 2 and 4 members asked that, we thought, oh, well, let's put this to a vote. We think this is something people would want to decide. So that was actually the very first vote after we launched the fund, after we launched Ujima, that we opened. And it took a really long time to close that vote. People weren't participating. So for us, we had to say, we're serious. It's up to you to decide what's happening with this money. There's $1 million that's going to sit here. It's not going to go anywhere. We're not going to, as a staff team behind the scenes, say, oh no, we need to make sure it goes out. We need to kind of pressure ourselves. We're not going to create some new process or just make decisions ourselves to make sure it gets out. It's going to sit here. And that was an important moment again, because I think we've been a part of so many processes that are not authentic. I think we have more experiences where we've been told we have power and we really don't, than experiences in which we actually have real power. So for me, these are opportunities for us to actually practice what it means to have real power, to actually try it on, to actually understand how it feels, what it looks like, what it sounds like, and really that kind of how it feels part, I think is what's important. Because that means things are not neat and pat always, right? So that means you set a date of the 12th, and maybe you can't go out on the 12th, and that's what happened here. So for me, that's what makes this a pretty cool moment. And I do just want to really uplift Kiana, and I don't know if she's had a chance to join us yet, and Kadogo Productions, because again, this was unplanned by us. So it was actually Kiana, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as Kadogo Productions, who saw the question and said, you know what? Yeah, good question. And I agree. And who actually went back, looked at the projections, looked at marketing cost, remembered a rule that applies in terms of marketing cost versus revenue, and said, yeah, I'm gonna update the projections. And then what we had to do on this end with the fund management team was just then make sure we're all on the same page about Kiana's decision. So also definitely for me, it was exciting to see a business of its own volition, as Julia said, say, this is valuable information. I appreciate it, and I'm actually going to act on it.
I appreciate that. I actually have a question for Julia and Genoa. I'm curious about the Kadogo, what the process of the Kadogo investment was, and specifically what made Kadogo special. They joined the alliance, and of course that means that they're eligible for an event. But what is actually like the questions? Like, what are some of the questions that you asked about whether or not a business is ready to engage in the investment process?
I'll hit that first. I think we encounter a lot of great businesses. Not all of them are investable. Not all of them are ready for that investment. At least I do in my daily life. I should say I try to work with small businesses as much as I can, particularly Black-owned businesses. But the first question is, how much do you need? And what are you going to do with it? Those are the first two questions, basic questions. And so with Kiana, I appreciate that she was pretty open. She's like, Julia, I'm trying to raise a round of probably 500,000. And here's what I want to do with it. I want to add on additional staff. I want to increase my marketing. That was initially a part of it. And I want to do more content creation and spend more on content. Well, content's expensive, as we all know. And Kiana really had her heart set on paying livable, sustainable wages to Black content creators, Black and brown content creators. And so we took a step back and I said, you know what? I think you need to raise your round. I think you need to, raise at least 600,000. And then we came to the conclusion that Ujima could support 300,000 of that, potentially, making it the largest investment that Ujima has done so far, more than Bay State Banner in terms of equity, which was the last largest. So I think one Ujima just gets better as we go on, right? It just gets better. but we really had to say, you know what, we're willing to go above and beyond for this entrepreneur, this Black woman who has this fantastic idea about spreading Black content, and having content that looks like her child, that looks like her family. And we support that. And it ended up being 300,000, and she ended up raising her round. And we're, going to help her in that process. And that's all a part of it. It's not just one and done. She needed some technical assistance. BCCO came in and worked on her financials during the investment process. We did due diligence with her. Really, now we're going to go over her board of directors. It's really a full scope process when we're working with an entrepreneur to produce that equity memo, to produce that investment ready company that you see presented in those videos. So it is weeks and weeks of really sort of honing our craft with them, and supports all around.
I appreciate that. And Genoa, the question was what makes Kidogo special? So I don't know if you also want to take a crack at answering that.
Yeah, I could jump in. I think Kadogo is special because they're targeting a market, which is, Black content creators, in that audience to provide like edutainment content. So educational and entertainment content for kids between the ages of 2 and 5. And then also like one of their things that they're trying to focus on is like over the years growing with the children as well. So like as they age out of the content, they're gonna be working towards creating, new and custom content for that new age group. So it'll eventually be 6 to 10 year olds, and then eventually to 12-year-olds. So I think that's really what makes Kadogos special, because they're not gonna just target one age group. They're looking to expand as the kids do get older. So yeah.
I appreciate that. And that's something, we don't talk about, what kinds of processes, what kinds of information is geared toward children and things like that. I know that that's like a growing sector on YouTube as well, content for children. So it's beautiful to see that this is happening. I do have a question for Nia and Natasha. Recently, y'all came together, you put your heads together and you created the UGBA Wire. Nia, can you talk about how this fits into the procurement initiative? And Natasha, maybe you could just talk a little bit more about the work that was done last year with the Martha's Vineyard trips. So maybe Nia, if you could recap the procurement initiative, why the UGBA Wire, and then Natasha, if you could talk just a little bit deeper about the MV tour.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Sierra. So I think we announced our procurement, correct, help me out with this, Sierra and or Natasha. I think we announced a procurement initiative. If we didn't announce it last year, which was
It was
2020,
2022.
we
right?
might have announced it 2022. I think the main thing I wanted to point out is for us, when we say procurement initiative, the actual kind of formal title is Ujima Hyper Local Procurement Initiative. So what we're doing there is we're taking, I think a few of us, I see some people on this in the town hall that have definitely kind of participated in broader procurement conversations. So we know that there's a citywide procurement conversation that's happening. We mentioned partnering with BECMA on the Martha's Vineyard tour. We know that BECMA as an organization, procurement, again, I would say it's not just citywide, but even statewide, took on procurement as an issue. For us, we wanted to take those conversations, those respective conversations, which we support in different ways. So we, for example, supported as a member of the Coalition for an Equitable Economy, which is another group of orgs that consist of a bunch of our peers that, again, have taken on this issue of procurement. And just really quickly, for some people, procurement is purchasing, essentially. And in the procurement conversation, both citywide, statewide, been looking at purchasing by large institutions, large corporations, as well as government. We've also have an anchor institution organizing strategy. I see some of our members from our anchor institution organizing member team, and so their ways they've worked on procurement, working on purchasing with universities, hospitals, and then we have a special group of people who work on faith institutions because they're attached to many faith congregations. So I've just talked about three different types of procurement conversations that have been happening at different levels. Ujima wanting to think about both how we extend and expand the conversation, as well as how we can directly influence the conversation, determined that we were positioned to ourselves behave very intentionally as procurers, so to speak. I just decided that maybe that word works right now. I think it does, but it might not. And so we ourselves were positioned to engage in direct purchasing that supports our businesses. And this is now at a very hyper local level. And so hopefully if we're paying attention to at least one type of procurement conversation, we're seeing how different conversations can connect to each other. We're seeing whatever our role is, whatever our function is, how we can contribute, and we're seeing how they can be impactful when we think about how we put all of the efforts together. So for us, yeah, we said we can do very hyper local purchasing directly with our businesses. That's a way to support them in addition to investment if they get investment, in addition to technical assistance. And then just really quickly, because I'll turn it over to Natasha, where the UGBA wire comes in, is to provide help provide that guidance for our members. So again, thinking about whoever we are, whatever our role, whatever our position, whatever our function, how can we directly participate in the various procurement conversations? And so we created the UGBA wire because we have lots of members who ask us and who we know are interested in very directly supporting our businesses beyond the ways in which they support Ujima already. And so it's in that spirit that the UGBA wire was conceived. I'll pass it to you, Natasha.
So the Martha's Vineyard tour was September of 2023, and it was an opportunity for our members to go to Martha's Vineyard and support, shop, eat at Black-owned businesses within Martha's Vineyards. I just want to highlight one thing that I thought was very special was that we had a sliding scale for tickets. And I feel like when thinking about Martha's Vineyard, one of the biggest things is it's expensive. A lot of people don't get to experience it because it's very pricey to go there. You have to take a ferry to go there, and just shopping around there. And also people aren't aware of how much Black history is there. So the feedback that we got, that it was a great opportunity for people to be able to afford to go there, see a place that they weren't able to afford before, and also just raise awareness that there are Black people there. There's a lot of Black history there, and there's ways for people to shop, eat, and do that. Some of the businesses that we had, and I'll also add here I added here a link to the Instagram just for some recap pictures. We had collaborated with Sideline, which is a Black-owned clothing brand, Lennox and Harvey, which is a Black-owned goods store so they have home goods, beach goods. We ate at 11th Circuit, which is a Black-owned restaurant, and then Island Life Studio, as well as Sieste La Vie. And they were all Black-owned, and it was great collaborating with Live Like a Local. If you don't know anything about Live Like a Local Tours Boston, it's a great way to get tours of Boston, Roxbury, and just visit a lot of Black-owned and learned history. So yeah, definitely, yes, Colin is the founder and he's great. We love collaborating with him. That's why we want to do this again. We had sold out on the tickets as well, just because there was just this need for people to want to experience that, and just like enjoy the entire day. I will also open it up if Genoa wants to mention, because Genoa was able to actually attend. So if you have anything to say about your experience that day, that would be great.
Yeah, I can jump in. Thank you, Natasha. I definitely loved it. It was super fun. I've been there twice with my family, like over 10, 15 years ago. So I didn't really remember too much, but it was actually like a different experience because we actually got to tour certain areas of Martha's Vineyard. And just learning about like the Black history that's over there was actually really cool because I never even knew about that. That the Black community that lives in Martha's Vineyard. It even inspired me to watch like a movie called, I think it's called Inkwell. I'm not sure if anyone watched it, but yeah, Sierra's laughing. It's a good movie. So like it was pretty cool. There was good food there. We went to a few different like local Black owned restaurants. Well, we went to one and a couple Black owned businesses, gift shops, clothing stores, ice cream stores. So it was a really cool experience. So like you got a mix of like history, but also like the community businesses that are there. So I think it was a really cool experience. Everyone should definitely check it out with Colin. Colin's really dope.
Amazing. Thank you all so much. You know what, we're going to talk about why you haven't seen the Inkwell until 2023. We're going to talk about it. That's a side chat. But thank you so much. Just to get back to some of the voting and enfranchisement, Nia, we together, we put our heads together, Pinky in the Brain. We started the Ujima Delegates program together. I would love for us to maybe just have like a fireside chat about what that program is and what it means, and what we're going to be doing this year with the program.
Sure. You want me to start, Sierra? You don't want to start?
I mean, I could start.
Why don't you start? Yeah.
I totally can start. Yeah.
All right.
So as some of you may know, we do have in 2022 we started the Ujima Voting Delegates Program. The Voting Delegates Program is a group of super voters. We regard super voters as people who have voted in the majority of our votes. So that's across investment, organizational votes, etc. There are people who have voted in every single vote since 2018. So there's been a lot of ballots in the past few years. But yeah, our voting delegates are super voters, and we've been really excited to partner with them on ensuring that our kind of Nia, how do I say this? Ensuring that we are the word that I cannot remember is related to
What?
The investment list. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
Yes, it's been
Yeah.
a long day. It's been a long day. They vote on our investment list. As you all know, back in 2019, 2018, we used to have everyone vote on all of our businesses. So, we'd get a list of businesses. We'd ask everybody, what are the businesses that you love, that you need, that you want to replace? We'd take all the businesses that we loved, and then, we'd have over 200 businesses, and we'd say, okay, now each one of us needs to vote on every single one of these. And if they get 3 red flags, they're out of here. All right, they're gone. We kick them off the list. And it's funny, but it's also very difficult to vote on that many businesses and to approve that many businesses and to be, it's a lot of pressure. I felt a lot of pressure. You had to go on, you got to do your research. You would want to feel knowledgeable. And that was feedback that we got from our voting members, was that, it was too much. They didn't feel like they could make an accurate decision because, they just didn't feel adequately prepared. And that's real. That's real for a lot of people. And so one thing that we did was we said, okay, well, let's have a smaller body of people who are super voters, who are super engaged in this process, who love to vote, clearly. We got them together. They love to vote and research. We got them together and we said, you know what? You're only going to get a list of 10 businesses. You're going to have 2 months to look at them. And, at the end of the process, we're all going to get together and we're going to discuss which businesses stay and which businesses go. Nia, I can pass it off to you here, or I could talk about, what we're doing this year myself.
Yeah, well, I'll just add a little bit more context, and then Sierra, perhaps you can talk about what we're about to do. And really, this process is the process of ratifying our investment plans.
Mhm.
Just to kind of make sure we understand what part of the process we're talking about. So as Sierra said, in the past, the way we did that was everybody got all the businesses. And when we first did this, there were about 140 businesses. There, we could not reasonably, rationally say, yep, everybody considered all 140 of these businesses, as Sierra said. But the idea is members are naming businesses either at an assembly or now when you join Ujima, you get a personalized investment form where we also have a process for businesses to name each other and to name themselves. And there isn't any intermediation of the staff behind the scenes. So you name a business is on a list for consideration. This process is for then members to say, now we want to ratify businesses from this list as actual investment plans for Ujima. So the way it looked in 2019 was we had a Roxbury list, we had a Mattapan list, we had a Dorchester list. And so members were asked to look at the Roxbury list and ratify it as an actual investment plan for Ujima. So that means Ujima now understands the businesses that are in the Roxbury investment plan, these are candidates for investment. In the Ujima, then our fund management team and our business alliance team, we try to connect with businesses, and then that's a whole other set of processes. Same thing, ratify this Dorchester list as a Dorchester investment plan, ratify this Mattapan list as a Mattapan investment plan. And the first list that we ratified as a plan through the delegates process. So we tried that twice. We talked about the first time we tried it. We tried it again in 2021. We had fewer businesses. It was 80 businesses that time. And again, members told us too much. So we devised the delegates process in 2022, I believe. And that was the first time we did the delegates process. And we ratified or we devised the delegates process in 2021. And then, yes, we did. Through the delegates process, we ratified what we called essentially a 2023 personalized investment plan for 2023. So, for example, Cupcake Therapy was on that list. Kadogo Productions was on that list. Comfort Kitchen was on that list. And we try to move through creating new list and then eventually new plans even though we already have hundreds from what we've done before, we also want to make sure new businesses, either they're kind of brand new or maybe they're just new to us because of how they've come to us, are able to get in front of us for consideration.
Yes, thank you so much, Nia. And so this year, what we will be doing, some of you might remember last year we had an open call where we asked community members, residents, Ujima members to name businesses that they love, that are attached specifically to a need. And so the needs process, I'll drop something in the chat. So, in 20, help me out, 2019, 2018, we
What
made
are
a
you
need.
trying to figure? Yeah, 20, I mean, we started doing the list even before that, like 2017, 2016,
Okay.
27. Yeah.
We got a list of 15 needs, y'all. Now it has grown,
Oh,
but originally we had.
that was 2018. That was 2018. You're
Okay,
right.
thank you so much, y'all. So we have a list of, we had a list at the time of 15 community needs. They range anything from affordable childcare to community-owned utilities and internet. And these are things that folks said, like, this is what we definitely need. We need an alternative to Eversource, et cetera, et cetera. We want to have our own community-controlled internet. And so we made sure that all of the businesses that were named last summer during our open call was and that's ujimaboston.com/open call as well. Sorry, y'all. We wanted to make sure that folks were attaching a need to the business because we want to make sure that going forward, all of our businesses that we invest in, our businesses that join the Alliance are actually attached to a need. Thank you, Nia. And so this year we have gone through, we have done some light It's not even necessarily edits, Nia. It's just cleaning up of the lists. And we've also gone through all of our backlists. So any list that hadn't previously been ratified, we've gone through, we've collated all of them, we've attached everything to a need, and we're going to be voting on it. So at our April 2020, at our April assembly, the Mattapan Neighborhood Assembly will actually be will actually be the last day for our voting delegates. We're going to meet, we're going to discuss, and we're going to ratify this investment list, turn it into an investment plan.
Yeah, and what's exciting about this will be our first businesses we need investment plan. The previous plans, the previous lists have all come from businesses we love, businesses that have been categorized as businesses we love. So this will be our first businesses we need investment plans. That's super exciting. Couple of things I just want to point out in that regard is one, if you look at our financial dashboards and our investor reports, we have a category where we try to show you how many businesses in the alliance map onto a stated need and how many investments, how many portfolio companies match to a stated need as well. So before this process, I believe we were at either 50%, I think we were at either 50% or just over 50% of our investments mapping directly onto a stated need. I can't remember offhand how many business alliance members were attached. So now with this process where we are now going to have a dedicated businesses we need investment plan, it provides us with even more opportunity to really match communities' needs with our investments. So that's super exciting. I think the other thing I want to mention, Sierra, is one of the things we also did this time around is in our open call, let me make sure I'm doing this correctly. No, not in our open call, but in the personalized investment forms that Ujima members get when they're signing up to become members. We also ask members to name new needs. So from that process, we have 24 additional needs categories that have been added to the original 15 that we had. And so the businesses that were named, we actually mapped them if they matched. We didn't force a match, but we looked to see if they matched across at least one of 39 needs categories based on additional needs that members had named.
Great, thank you, Nia. I'm going to open it up to the audience once more before I ask another question. We did up the quorum. It used to be 50% plus one. It is now 60%. Maybe we could talk about why we made that decision, how we came to that decision. We talked about it really quickly, but maybe we want to get into it more in depth.
Yeah, I don't know that there's too much more to say. I think what I'll say is from the very beginning, for us, I think it has been an open question as to what percentage participation we could consider truly representative of people's desires. And in terms, so it seems like, so for us to figure that out, it seems like a good place to start was at least majority. But we had known from the beginning that that was not going to be enough. But we said until we do this more, refine our processes, get more information, do more research. So as an aside, we were able to have a study conducted by two Harvard Kennedy students at the time. I think this was 2019,
Yes.
who did a report where we asked them that question in terms of what percentage could we consider truly representative of a community's desires. So we did start off saying we do want to be able to say, well, at least a majority wants this. We want to work our way to a super majority. So I do think we do feel comfortable saying and 60% is not a super majority, to be clear. But I do think our aim is to eventually get to a super majority, which would be 75%, which feels like we can say appropriately If you've got 3/4 of a body saying they want something, we can consider that representative. So 60% is us pushing our way there. And again, we're almost there already. It is important for us though to formalize it. Yeah, I think there's probably in us formalizing it a bit of a measure of accountability. So we don't kind of waver and go back and forth as it's convenient. So in us formalizing it, 60% is now our new threshold. And we've got to meet it. And again, we're working our way to even higher percentages. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add, Sierra, in terms of the why.
Um, really interesting. I mean, I can add a philosophical why. I can add an emotional why. And so for me, I think the why really pertains to what you're talking about. I consider Ujima a community planning project, and I talk about that a lot, right? Like, what does it mean for us to truly be negotiating in the same way that other folks who work for the city are? What does it mean for us to be negotiating our needs and renegotiating how we think about our built environment, how we think about what exists in our built environment and in our neighborhoods, the neighborhoods that we don't live in, the neighborhoods that we visit, the neighborhoods that we shop in, and what would it take for us to truly plan our communities so we maybe don't have to leave as much. Maybe we are able to enjoy ourselves, luxuriate, visit, parks differently. What does it mean for us to move through space differently? And so Ujima for me is a really exciting kind of query, question, answer. Sometimes, most of the time, it's an answer. Sometimes it's a question, a prompt for us to really think about, what true everyday participatory democracy looks like in that planning of our communities. I like to tell people, if folks who are quote cough cough NIMBYs are able to say what is and isn't in their communities, we should be able to do that too, right? Like we should be able to say like what stays and what goes, or maybe what doesn't exist that we want to currently exist. And so when I think about what it takes, when I think about Ujima being truly representative of a dedicated public, of a dedicated body of people who live in a neighborhood saying like, you know what, yes, Comfort Kitchen should exist. Not only should Comfort Kitchen exist and should we have great restaurants that offer great food, we're actually going to go on the other end too. And we're going to say that fresh food generation deserves to be here. And not only are we going to say that we think the fresh food generation deserves to be here, we think that Black market deserves to be here because Black market is a place where we can go buy goods and services that we don't normally get to see because they're doing pop-ups, right? And so, and not only that, we think that Cadoga Productions deserves to exist. And we think that Cadoga Productions deserves support because when we go online, we actually can't, not everybody wants to talk to, what is her name, Miss Rebecca or whoever the person is that people love their children to watch these days, I can't remember her name because I don't have kids. But, there's lots of children's content out there, but we want to make sure that the content that our children are watching throughout the world, not just in Boston, that is truly inclusive for every child. And so when I think about this as a proposition, as Nia said, it's really about being truly representative, but I think it's also a reminder of collective power. So that's what I'll say about that. I hope that that's helpful for everybody. So remember to vote. That's where we're going with this. Don't forget to vote. We will be calling, texting, sending emails. Please don't get too annoyed with us. If you vote, you won't get another message. That's just how that works. Yusuf, speaking of voting, I'm going to
Yes.
pass it to you. You want to do some housekeeping?
Yes, thank you. It's been a great meeting, an awesome meeting, and we've covered a lot of grounds tonight. So let's keep the momentum going. So the vote begins tomorrow. So don't forget to submit your ballot by April 2nd, 2024. Visit ujima.com/vote to learn more and cast your ballot. Thank you.
Yes, Kiana, do you want to jump in here? Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, sure. I so wish that I could have been able to be here right at the beginning, but I teach piano. And so there's my piano. I'm still sitting at the piano because I was like, as soon as that last person finished the last note, I was like trying to log on to this one. But yeah, I'm really happy that the vote happens tomorrow. Kidogo Productions has been something that I I think I just it was born out of necessity first, watching my daughter watch things that I didn't think were appropriate for her. It really affected her self-esteem. She wanted to be, have blonde hair for a while. And I was like, sis, it's just not gonna happen for you. And you are beautiful with your hair. And she was, and I said, there's something that needs to change. And so I began to dream, which is so fascinating. It's a fascinating process. I began to dream about content that our children deserve, all children deserve to watch. I began to dream about getting in touch with creators. I began to dream about a digital space and place where children of all hues are safe. And this is now becoming reality. And with your vote starting tomorrow, we will all see the fruits of the labor that has been taking place over the number of years. So I am excited. I am expectant, and we need your 60%. And if we can shoot past that, it would be wonderful. And I just learned that my Zoom, if I hold up 2 thumbs, I get this. And so that is the kind of production that we want. That is the kind of excitement that we want when we all vote for Kidogo Productions. And thank you.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Kiana. And I just do want to remind everybody also that we have Liberation Study Hall ongoing every Wednesday through the end of the year. But this month we are diving into disability politics and policy with Ola. We do have 2 more sessions before we transition into Assembly Month in April. Natasha, you want to talk about Assembly Month real quick?
Yes, I do. And I do just want to add that Ola Ojewumi is a disability justice advocate. And she's talking a lot about intersectionality and ableism, very important things, because I don't know if a lot of you guys know, March is Developmental Disability Awareness Month. So we wanted to collaborate about that and talk about disabilities, not just developmental disabilities, but all disabilities, and the injustice and the disability justice movement and what people of color, especially Black people, have done in regards to that. So please, if you can join, it's a great session. Ola is amazing, and she'll be in person on our last session on March 27th. So yes, and then moving forward to Assembly Month, April is Assembly Month, and it's going to be hybrid with the Mattapan Neighborhood Assembly. And we're inviting everybody to share their experience, voice, and ideas at our April Assembly. And this assembly is an opportunity for us to collectively decide on the allocation of Ujima Fund investment dollars in 2024 and steer the development of our beloved Mattapan communities. And you can learn more about the assembly on our website. I'll also add the link below. And I will pass it to Yusuf to wrap it up. And if you have any questions about the assembly or the Developmental Disability Awareness Month and our workshops, please do not hesitate to ask. Thank you. And I'm passing it to you, Yusuf.
Yeah, thank you, Natasha. Thank you for everybody for being with us tonight, and everybody watching. And remember, you can always reach out to us via email and online. Stay connected and informed about everything happening in our ecosystem by visiting ujimaboston.com. And follow us on social media at Ujima across all platforms. And thank you. Have a fantastic night.